Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning.
Good afternoon and good evening for those across the pond. I'm Andrew. I'm with Lewis Brackpool. How are you, young man?
Yes, I'm very well. Thank you for having me co-host with you again. It's good to see you.
No problem. I've dressed up today, Lewis, even though my collar's a little bit out of whack, but now you're wearing the t-shirt. Our roles have been reversed.
That's it. I read your mind. I thought, I can't copy you, mate.
Rebel News Daily live stream where we take your super chats, your Rumble rants, your Odyssey hyper chats. I have to get all these chat names in order, and Super U paid chats. We don't actually have super chats on YouTube because we're demonetized on there. They don't like content that doesn't go against the grain or does go against the grain. So after a few stories, we're going to pull away from them into the land of freedom of Rumble, Super U, and Odyssey. So check out that by going to rebelnews.com/livestreams or the link in the description. And first off the top, Lewis, we want to remind everybody about the Rebels Viewer Choice Awards, which I know you've been pumping out content to try to get stealing votes probably. One election fraud we're allowed to talk about is the Rebel News Viewer Choice election fraud. Avi Yemeni was in question last year. He and Bexley was in question last year for, you know, stealing the vote maybe. I wonder if we'll get pulled down just for saying those things about an internal vote for Viewers Choice Award. So it's viewerschoiceaward.ca, which is astounding that there wasn't an actual website for it before us, but there is now. Who do you think is the best Rebel News journalist? I'll tell you who I think. Voting ends today at 5 p.m., so it should say today. December 1st, we're already in December, wow. It's already been 2 years of lovely COVID restrictions. And if you're wondering, hey, how come this isn't in alphabetical order, or this doesn't seem fair to have Matt Brevner and Lewis Brackpool down the list there, it auto-generates every time you go to the website. So when I'm voting for myself 16 times, or voting for Yakov Pollock, which is we're about to do, I think, it regenerates the list every single time. Producer AD is about to vote for Yankee, which is going to make him very happy. And he's going to be like, you know, I think more people should be voting for me. I do a lot of the most work. Yankee's working 24 hours a day is what most people don't know. So shout out to Yankee because he's often helping the Australian people, which are, you know, 36 hours ahead of time into the future. Lewis, final pitch for people to vote for you. I know you've been pushing it hard on your social media.
Yeah, I mean, I'm up against some Goliaths this year. Avi Yemeni, Sheila Gunn-Reid, David Menzies. Nearly said you.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah, up against some big competition, but I'm the only person flying the flag for Great Britain. So if you want to vote for some Brit that harasses people around in London, then go for it. You don't have to. It's up to you. You could just pick Avi like everyone else does. But, yeah, it's completely up to you.
So you're going with the Olympic style as you're representing all of Great Britain, not the UK or England. You're including what's the difference? This is a hot debate I've had with writer Dave before. What's the difference between Britain and the United Kingdom?
Oh, it's just a play on words, really.
Wow.
It's literally, yeah.
When you think you're more intellectual, those Brits, and then they just say, oh no, there's no difference. Last week I sent Lewis pictures. I was inside a British store that popped up in Oshawa, Ontario, Canada. Outrageous prices, so I'm not going to say the name of the place. I'm guessing it's because of import fees, but $4 for a tiny bag of chips like this. And I could confirm, though, that salad cream is a real thing. They were selling it at the stores. I don't know why Heinz makes everything in England. They make all your salad dressings. They make all your canned foods. It's a little strange, but I guess they really cornered the market there. Congratulations, Heinz Foods. You're winning the Rebels Viewers Choice Award. But I digress. Oh, there it is. It's disgusting looking. I don't know what it is. Why is it yellow?
Green. Yellow and green. Very nice.
My hair's got a lot of volume here, Lewis. I don't know if I can control it. It's out of control. You've got a lot of volume as well.
That's it. Cheers. I think we're really sort of copying each other each time we do a live stream, mate. So it's looking good.
Well, before I come on, I put the salad cream directly in my hair. And that's what gives it this look, I think. So our first story is CNN's Brian Stelter, who we all know and love. He's way older than, or he looks way older than he is. He's morbidly obese. He's annoying. He lies. He's all the things you want in a CNN anchor. And he's got a segment recently where he's complaining about memes. They're too powerful. He can't stop them. CNN famously doxed a person, quote unquote, for posting that Donald Trump wrestling CNN meme from the WWE universe. They've also gone to old people's homes for, saying things. CNN, their ethics are not the highest, and we'll get to more about Chris Cuomo in a second on that. But Brian Stelter, he thinks, his show's called Reliable Sources. He thinks that, he's the pinnacle of news trustworthiness. And I want to show this clip, followed by a bunch of hilarious memes from DC Caller. Daily Caller, DC Shorts is their YouTube channel, and it just goes to show that the memes are unstoppable. Meme magic. Let's go ahead and play these because it's hilarious.
We have a lot more coming up this hour, but first, what is the meta story of President Biden's first year? The meta story, meaning the all-encompassing narrative of Biden's presidency. What's the takeaway? What's the story about all the stories? What's the main impression you get from all the daily headlines and hate tweets? Is it America rebounding, or is it America on the wrong track? First, let's admit that the American media has a tremendous amount of power in shaping the meta story of a presidency. Maybe that's why so many liberals are so frustrated right now, worried about Biden's poll numbers, irritated at the media's framing, and concerned that Biden isn't doing enough to shape his own story. If Biden's strategy is quiet, his detractors are trying to be loud, making the meta story about a guy who failed to deliver. It is increasingly a country with many alternative facts. Disproving viral tweets is different than debunking a TV ad. Combating meme makers is different than rebutting newspaper columnists. And the memes are pretty powerful sometimes. My suburban grocery stores never had empty shelves like that, but the messaging here saying that Biden is to blame for anything bad about the economy, it is clearly sticking to some degree. Even though economists believe GDP is going to surge this quarter, even though the American recovery is historically strong after the pandemic, the meta story is that we are in choppy waters. As Jonathan Chait wrote in this New York Magazine cover story, nobody can ascertain exactly why the public has turned so sour so fast. He said Biden is like a patient wasting away from some undiagnosable disease.
Oh my God.
That is horrific.
That's not the same one I thought. Can we cue up the Daily Caller video that shows all the great memes? But for Brian Stelter to say nobody knows why people don't like Biden and the economy has recovered historically, it's pretty obvious to most people, I would think, that a record economy after lockdowns and shutdowns is because the numbers tanked. If I take $1,000 from you and then give it back, you're just like, well, we're up $1,000. Like, that's the same logic he's using here. He reminds me of somebody who's like an early 2000s, early 2010s blogger who just links all these things in a quirky little blog post without even reading the articles. As you can see, people have been saying this, that, and the other. People don't actually know why Joe Biden's approval rating is the worst of any president at his time in his presidency. It's just a mystery. The economy's doing great, so says this website I've never read before, so I have no nuance. The gas prices are soaring, the border is porous, the supply chain is weak, cost of living is high, wages are low, inflation is gigantic, and the money printing is out of control. Now you can say, and I was arguing with somebody about this yesterday, Trump spent a lot of money. Yes, he did spend a lot of money. I disapprove of that as well. However, the economy and cost of living was in a much better shape. Everybody was much happier. And Trump, for better or for worse, whether you agree with it or not, if the gas prices were the same as what they are now under him, he would literally bully the oil companies into lowering the prices. Obama did it as well. Obama wanted to screw over the Russian gas chain, so he artificially lowered the prices in America to, try to put them out of business a little bit. Whatever, America first, if you want to put it that way. But for them to say, Lewis, that nobody knows why Joe Biden approval rating and Kamala are in the tank is just either a lie or complete misunderstanding. Do you think it's this revolving door of our questioning of are they stupid or lying here?
I mean, firstly, I can't even take what that bloke says seriously. Ever since I saw that photo of him, how he sits there and presents the news from home, I think it was just him in his pants or something. It was absolutely ridiculous. So I can't take what he says with a pinch of salt as it is. And obviously, CNN being a fake news site for many, many years, so I can't really take what they say very credible. I think. Listen, with Biden and Harris, I mean, it's just been an absolute S show since the beginning. And, I mean, yeah, just, I mean, he just makes me laugh. Now, he's a meme in himself. Now, it's just so, what's he doing? What is he doing? Yeah, I don't know. He's just a laughing stock. And it doesn't paint a good picture for the US at all. I mean, Americans feel like they're a laughing stock now because of their own world leader, and that's I was not expecting that one. See, why would you want to ban these? Why would you want to ban these? These are amazing. You know, they've done it to Trump for how many years, and you know that was fair game. But now it's Biden. We should ban and censor them. Sounds pretty China to me.
Yeah, I don't like the whole people try to act offended by anybody saying something bad about Biden, but what was 4.5 years under Trump? It was just calling him a Nazi every single day. And producer, when we go to this, while we're going to this next CNN story, if you can go to my Getter page, that's getter.com, Andrew says, I have a post about the nighttime news ratings, and I just want to review some of the hilarious ratings coming out of CNN and MSNBC compared to Fox. That's on my Getter page, Andrew says. But the latest story out of CNN breaking yesterday was Chris Cuomo being suspended from CNN because of his continued involvement in former Governor Andrew Cuomo's sexual harassment cases. Don't quote me on what the actual thing he was found guilty of was. It was sexual harassment style crime, which seems to be a problem in the Cuomo family if I'm not taking it lightly. He was getting advice or giving advice to his brother, which I don't know if I necessarily have a problem with. I'll tell you what my problem is with it in a second. He is apparently texting his staff saying he needs to be involved more, saying they need to just listen to him on how to handle the media coverage. And I think that would be a smart thing to do if your brother's on a nighttime news network. So the problem therein lies is the ethics violations that they're running into there of, he's reporting on a story, he can't report on it evenly, which of course is a problem. And now the problem I have with it is not just that, is the fact that CNN says that this is a breach of our ethics code. Now I'm thinking, breach of ethics at CNN. Like I said, you did dox the kid and basically threaten him for making a meme. You do go to grandma's houses. You do say Kyle Rittenhouse is a piece of garbage 17-year-old. So they do all these things, all their stuff about Trump, and all of a sudden now a guy advising his brother is a breach of ethics. What they don't want, Lewis, I think, is, the scandal of it all, of people going back and looking at Chris Cuomo with a giant Q-tip talking to his brother on air almost every night, chumming it up with him, and people going back into his poor reporting and his lies that he's done over the years, like Tucker Carlson will do, show him working out, or his fake emergence from the basement. What do you think do you think there's any hypocrisy here with CNN? Finally, now they're taking a stand saying this is a breach of our ethics?
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, CNN have been driving this propaganda for years and years now. I mean, all the way through Trump, they never said one good thing about him. Actually, I think they said one good thing, and they had to forcefully admit it. And I think that was to do with taking out an ISIS leader. And I think, they were almost backed into a corner to say it. So they're extremely partisan, and I think it's pretty obvious, obviously, CNN being partisan. But on top of that, there's no what's the word I'm looking for?
That's not Photoshop, by the way.
Oh, just keep the memes coming, man. They're so good, so good. But I think I'm trying to figure out what the word is, but I think it's just etiquette and just being a bit more sincere in your reporting. And I just haven't seen that credibility from them. And on top of that, listen, Cuomo, I've never been a big fan personally from what I've seen. I think he's a bit of a try-hard personally from what I've seen. And I also saw that really cringy interview he done with Ice Cube, I believe, where I couldn't bear to watch it because Ice Cube was pretty on it, and he's a good business model. And I think they both were doing a bit of a to and fro, and it got a little bit heated at one point. And I remember that, and I thought, yeah, it's pretty awkward. So I sort of turned off ever since, and that was a few years back. So yeah, a lot of hypocrisy, a lot of strange things going on in that world of media.
Yeah, Governor Cuomo, I believe what the email showed that he did is that he was grabbing a woman's butt while knowing her husband was in the room. And then you've got Chris Cuomo emerging from the basement there, even though he had gotten an altercation with a guy earlier that week. He said he had COVID and he was trapped in his basement away from his family, but had been out, almost fighting with a guy in the street, down the street. He was looking at one of his properties or something, and then he has his big emergence from the basement. It's a big song and dance, and I even think back a few years ago, now that we're talking about it, where he tried to claim that there was never any attacks in women's bathrooms from transgendered individuals because people were a state was doing the law where they wanted to keep the bathrooms, of course, separate for genders. And he said this stuff never happens, And then, of course, the Clinton emails, you can't look at it. You can only get your news from us. That way it's not illegal, even though it's all over the internet. Do we have those ratings we can pull up? I think it's pretty funny. If we scroll down, there's Lewis, there's Will Witt, there's the ratings. Click on that image, getter.com, everybody. So the funny thing is here, CNN's gotten so bad, it's like they target the afternoon, stay-at-home people. I don't want to criticize anybody if they're home during the day, but for whatever reason, same reason The View does it. They know their audience during the day. If you were to tell me, I don't know, 10 years ago that Wolf Blitzer would be #1 on CNN. That's the Situation Room. For 2 hours, Wolf Blitzer has higher viewers than their entire nighttime lineup of Anderson Cooper there, Chris Cuomo, who's no longer going to be there, and Don Lemon. And then Chris Cuomo gets repeated again to almost half the audience. Every single show on Fox beats CNN throughout the entire day, I think, but one. Jake Tapper, who's getting 1.14. No, everything on Fox beats everything on CNN. And then MSNBC has Rachel Maddow, the only one who beats anything on Fox. So it's pretty interesting. Then you have small places like Newsmax. But everybody on Fox, I like Greg Gutfeld and Tucker Carlson. They're killing everybody on all the other stations. And it's just funny to see that now robot newsman Wolf Blitzer, who's famous for the holograms during the Iraq War in the early 2000s, he's now back to #1. The time has circled back around, and Wolf Blitzer is robo-laughing, and he's #1 again on CNN. I just thought that was funny. Have you been keeping up with the Ghislaine Maxwell trial at all? There's a huge news embargo on it, which I thought isn't a thing in the United States, but nobody's allowed in the courtroom. Nobody's allowed to talk about it. Have you heard anything from this trial?
I've heard they've mentioned Prince Andrew, which of course is extremely interesting. Obviously, very shameful as well. Probably why we chose this title of this video, really. No, absolutely shameful. I haven't been keeping too up to date. It's mostly been COVID malarkey. Consistently in the news, unfortunately, and obviously the mainstream media aren't reporting really on this, strangely. So yeah, I wonder why. So I haven't been keeping too up to date. Oh yes, we were talking about this earlier. The CEO of Twitter resigned. CNBC resigned. CEO of Goldman
Walmart.
Sachs. Yeah, Walmart. Yeah, Chris Cuomo was fired from CNN.
Chris Cuomo's unrelated, though, so I don't know how much I trust that, knowing that Chris Cuomo is because new documents came out of him being more involved than they actually thought. It's stupid for sure that they're covering this up and they don't want anybody, like Kyle Rittenhouse, something that's not, a national, doesn't affect the world really. It's a trial of self-defense, wall-to-wall coverage, elitist pedophile ring, taking people to an island with Prince Andrew and Bill Clinton and all of them 23 times. Can't have any cameras on that. We gotta protect the people involved in that. And you mentioned Prince Andrew. The funniest thing about him was he did, I don't know if it was a 60 Minutes interview or who he did the interview with, which he totally shouldn't have done, where he claimed there was a period of time where he couldn't sweat, so he couldn't have been there. And then he was pictured sweating a day later. Of course, everybody dug up the dug up the photos, and then him in the park with Epstein, all this stuff. He shouldn't have said anything. I don't know who his PR person was, but then he's excommunicated from the, I was going to say the church, the castle, the crown, I should say, I guess. And I think, what did they get? An endowment of like £200,000 a year, I think it is, when you're basically just a member of the royal family. I'm sure Prince Charles gets much or even more. So it's a hilarious caricature of a human being Prince Andrew is. So I think some of those Goldman Sachs, I don't know, I'd have to look into those stories individually, but just knowing that Chris Cuomo is on that list is a little different. The chief medical examiner resigning is another one we had lined up today. Dr. Barbara Sampson, that's a good reference to the movie, what's the Dave Chappelle movie about weed smoking? I want to talk to Sampson. Very few people can get that reference. First woman to lead New York City Office of Chief Medical Examiner in its 100-year history announced her departure for a job in a private sector. Now, I was reading this earlier. I'm not sure I saw anything to be suspicious about. Oh, there we go, Jeffrey Epstein. Prior to the pandemic, Sampson oversaw the autopsies of Eric Garner, Joan Rivers, and Jeffrey Epstein, each of which generated a degree of public controversy. So there it is. Why are you resigning right now? Very suspicious.
Yeah. Very bad timing from a lot of these people, eh? Do you not find that really, really odd, like on the day? There are just loads of people resigning. On top of that, Jack Dorsey resigned as well from Twitter around the same time. Lots and lots of different people are just suddenly stepping down. It's like they're all like, we've got to retreat back to the Bat Cave and shed our skin a little bit more. Like, it's just really, really weird.
Yeah, if we're putting our conspiracy hat on in that sense, then I would say the deal is you resign and we shelter you from this a little bit, basically, so you stay out of the limelight. You don't get quite your high-paying job, but you can. I'm sure Jack Dorsey will be fine with speaking fees, a la Hillary and Billary, if you will. $500,000 here, $200,000 there. We want to promote the Rebel News store before we leave YouTube here. It's that time of the day to leave the confines of YouTube and its oligarchy. And you can go to rebelnews.com/livestreams, or you can follow the links in the descriptions, because we are on Rumble, Super U, and Odyssey. Christmas gear is at rebelnewsstore.com. You've got my favorite toque, or beanie, if you want to call it that. I don't know. What do you guys call it in England?
Beanie, definitely not a toque. Don't know what
Whatever.
that is.
Get out. Go back to the store. We don't want to see Lewis and his fascism of language here. Rebelnewsstore.com. We've got all this Christmas stuff. I like this stuff. I sent this shout out to Will Witt and Amala Ekpanobi were on my show last night. We sent out, I think, one of those hoodies to them because, you know, it's so, you know, it looks like a sled. There's snowflakes on it. The toque, I say. And I like that mug too. We kind of collect a bit of mugs in my house, so I'll probably be getting that one. I don't have the phone that will go on, but you can get all this stuff at rebelnewsstore.com. 'Tis the season, as they say. We need a Hanukkah shirt, don't we, producer AD? We need a Hanukkah shirt. Just a couple Jewish people at the company, as you may or may not know. Are we pulled away from YouTube yet? We can go to the chats, I think. Please watch us on Rumble, Super U, and Odyssey by following the links in the description, and by going to rebelnews.com/livestreams. You can always see the most prominent featured feed of the day, just in case one of the platforms goes down, which happens from time to time. So if we got some